Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Welcome into the Volquest podcast, brought to you by Exterior Home Solutions. Anytime you need some window repair, some siding, some roofing, give them a call today, and also go onto their website. It's exteriorhomesolutions.com. Awesome. They've been a great partner for us, and they're there for you when you need that help.
That's right. Give Jeff and Dustin a call. Two guys, high quality individuals that know how to cut up and laugh and have a good time, but also take any problem you have very seriously and get it fixed for you. Give Exterior Home Solutions a call.
865-524-5888. 865-524-5888 for a free estimate today. That is Exterior Home Solutions. That is Austin Price, Rob Lewis, Brent Hubbs. I'm Eric Kane. A whole lot going on today here on the Volquest podcast. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, checking out all of our work, recruiting, spring football, basketball just wrapping up, baseball, all that coverage, volquest.com every single day. With that, guys, I thought we'd just go ahead and dive into a little football conversation. Spring practice week 1 is in the books, and Rob, me and Brent kind of talked about this a little bit last night, but overall, it's a lot more depth, better numbers for Tennessee. It's a good start, but of course, the pads came on for practice 1 on Saturday, and we'll learn a lot more about Tennessee football this week.
Well, I mean, the depth would almost have to be better from from last year. That was pretty much the storyline of spring practice. Last year was injuries, especially the secondary in particular. I mean, you had safeties playing corner, you had walk-ons playing safety, and freshmen thrown out there. So just getting all those kids here early from freshmen, transfers. Even you got a handful of guys sitting out, but I mean last year that was the headline of spring practice.
Yeah, I mean there was no guys in the secondary. I mean it was a great opportunity for Tamarian McDonald, who kind of earned a starting spot, or at least planted that seed at this time last year. William Wright was getting a ton of reps at cornerback. Not so much the same story this spring, this go around, Austin Price, but still a chance to see kind of where you are numbers wise. What were your overall thoughts week 1? We got to see 4 practices, 1 extended practice for the viewing period at least. What did you come away with after week 1?
Well, before I do that, those reps that William Wright got last spring, they helped him when he had to go in against Alabama and help him up there late. So, I mean, you never know when your number will be called upon. But, I mean, it's just a deeper football team. The one worry that I have is the offensive line. Outside of that, I feel pretty confident, in just about every position. I feel like they can be deeper at tight end, but I'm with Hubbs and Ethan Davis is going to be a guy that helps this, program, sooner rather than later. Now, again, he's got to pick up the blocking part of that. So if he doesn't pick that part up, it'll be hard to find the field. But Tennessee, we're going to talk about, kind of, will they run some 4 wide receiver sets this fall? I can see it, but so much of what they do involves a tight end. It's hard to see them doing that extensively, right? I mean, maybe like on just a straight, like, okay, this drive, we're just going 4 receivers, balls, and just go crazy. I like the way this team's made up, and it's made up to me with the young defensive guys. I just have a feeling that's going to be where we're talking about all fall camp and into the season. They're going to score points, but that's where they take the step. I've said that for a while.
And really, Brent, kind of for the first time since Josh Heupel's been here, and I'm recognize here, I'm not saying that this defense has arrived and this defense is where they want to be. They need to improve a little bit. They have improved, but they need to continue to improve. But when you look at the defense, Brent, you return so many up front. You lose Byron Young, and that's a concern. Like Austin said, you need some of those young guys off the edge to really make a difference. But you return an awful lot on the defensive line. Love the mix of talent at linebacker. And even in the secondary, though it's got to get better, you return an awful lot, and you add some athletic youth as well as an impact transfer. I like what this defense is looking like here in spring, and as you kind of wrote about on Monday morning, I bet the defense will have a good day in spring scrimmage number 1, which is normal here at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, my 3-2-1 prediction was that the defense would win the scrimmage on Saturday. I think for 2 reasons. 1, where this defense is right now. 2, you had the offensive coordinator step into the media microphone last week and say, Tim Banks can cut it loose and do anything he wants to do against us because we're not afraid of the mistakes in spring. We need to learn and grow from them. And so because there's no I don't think it's going to. So many times through the years, I've seen scrimmages set up for somebody to win, one side of the ball to win, or the passing game to win, or pass coverage to win, or whatever. These guys put the ball down and go play football. And I think right now that, you probably feel like this defense is in better shape to do that. But because of the blend of experience, the athleticism they have, and you have concerns up front on the offensive line at tackle, and how physical are the tight ends going to be? I think I told Austin this. I don't remember who I told this over the weekend. It's a bad sign, and maybe I said this on the rewind last night. It's a bad sign if the defensive ends or the offensive tackles dominate. Okay, because if the defensive ends dominate, you may have a false sense of how good those guys are, because that may be your offensive line. Your offensive tackles are really not very good. If your offensive tackles dominate, then maybe your defensive ends are a long ways away. You kind of want to push out of those two positions, in my opinion, in this scrimmage when it comes to pass rush. And so we'll see, but I expect the defense to win the first scrimmage because I think they'll be a little further along. But I think it'll be, I think there'll be some interesting reports coming out, and I think it'll be a lot about young guys, come out of this scrimmage who showed up and made some plays as young guys.
If you're not going to get a push over, you want the defensive ends to make plays. Like I just with where they're at offensive tackle, I'd rather know than have a false sense of security at offensive tackle going forward. But that's just me, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think you got to be careful not to get a false sense for both those sides, right? I mean,
sure.
If you don't want a false sense that your defensive ends have suddenly arrived, and your offensive tackles are, that's the question mark's even bigger than you thought it was going to be at this point. So we'll see. I mean, they've got a week to get ready. Saturday was their first day in pads. We'll see how physical everybody is, and go from there. And I know Rodney Garner wasn't elated with the physicality at the end of the sprint or in the end of the day.
Stunned.
Stunned, but he was more positive than he typically is, Austin. I mean, I think this week the big question is the physicality of the ends, offensive tackles, and tight ends. That's my question about this team this week. When you talk about what are you looking for this week, who answers the call of the physicality at those three spots?
He was positive because he had taken the pain meds from the knee surgery about period 18, and they had kicked in when he met with the media.
I'll say this: I missed the media because I was covering the baseball game, but I went back and watched the video over on our site and on the YouTube page. Please subscribe. He was really complimentary, Austin, of Caleb Herring. Like, said, hey, I think he's going to be a good player. Means something to him. He's long. He's working hard. It's kind of difficult to draw some high praise, especially this early. And again, it's not saying he's arrived. He's got to get there, but had a lot of good things to say about Caleb Herring.
Yeah, again, not surprised. Getting back around Elijah, gets focused in, has put on a ton of weight. Athletically has always had everything you want, has the frame to throw on more weight and maintain speed. So maybe surprised that he's getting this much praise, but not surprised that he's doing what he's doing.
Well, and I think the other thing that you see with him is, one, he really does like ball. He really likes playing football. And two, I think it's because of his brother. There's a level of maturity there with him, right? Like, you're not going to be silly. You're not going to be late. You're not going to be goofing off, because his brother will jerk a knot in his chain in a heartbeat. And I think that helps. If you're the coach and the guy who's been on campus for 6 weeks you're not having to, remind him of doing all this or doing that. I mean, he's got a maturity about him off the field as well as on the field. You're going to get praise. And I think Caleb Herring's got a lot of maturity about him.
Which segues into this week's Vol Club Confidential with the Herring brothers. Tune in this Friday at the same YouTube channel.
Plugging Vol Club Confidential, plugging the Volquest YouTube channel. We're checking all the boxes here. Kind of on that Caleb Herring note, all of us, and fans included, want to know about the new guys, newcomers, freshmen, transfers, because we just don't know what they are as football players, right? And we spoke ad nauseum, it feels like, on Keenan Peely, what he's looked like this week. A little bit of Gabe Judy, Lolly, the BYU transfers, some Ricky Gibson. some Arian Carter, and that's all good. We'll learn more about, of course, all those guys and more this week with full pads and the scrimmage. Any other newcomers maybe that you've heard about or that you've noticed on the practice field for Tennessee, good or bad? Just some observations from newcomers, Brent.
For me, it's Ethan Davis, and
I forgot to mention him. Of course, we've talked about him.
I don't want to sound like I was Mr. Negative. I know
plant that flag, Hubbard. Plant that flag.
No, I'm not planting the flag.
Hey, AP, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Ben and Christian Harrison from camp last year.
Oh, come on, man. You're kidding me, right?
I think Ethan Davis will play for sure.
Next, you're gonna compare me to Paul Fortenberry and Woody Quinn from about 10 years ago.
He doesn't know who either one of those people are.
I know Paul.
So anyway, here's what I'll say about Ethan Davis. He's further along with the shoulder, obviously, and is allowed to do more. And physically, he looks better than I anticipated. I'm going to throw this caveat out there. This is the one red flag that I have with Ethan Davis right now. When he met with the media, he made it very clear he was a big receiver, basically.
Yeah.
Who's the tight end. So the question, it's why I wrote it in the 3-2-1 this week, is how physical can that group of tight ends become? They're going to miss Princeton Fant, Austin, and Rob. I mean, because of all the little dirty things he did. And I don't mean dirty in a negative way, but I mean just, the blocking and the pass protection, those things. Can Jacob Warren do that at the end of his career? What's McAllen Castles? Is he a block? Where's he from a blocker?
He's a pass catcher.
I mean, right now you look like Jacob Warren was a big receiver, Rob, coming out of Farragut High School. You kind of got three big receivers playing tight end. Can that group find the physicality that you need for this team to do what they want to do in the run game and in the pass game with their pass protection? That's the big question for me about that group.
Are we saying that he's the Eurosh of the football team? Is that what you're saying?
No.
But no, I'm with you. Like, you're talking about three guys that have all kind of been predominantly pass catchers,
right?
That now are going to need. So which comes back to, like, if you're one of those walk-on guys, if you're Browder or somebody like that, Hunter Salmon, like, aren't you trying to find your niche as the guy who blocks? Because you might actually find your way onto the field.
Yeah, you will. I mean, the challenge is because they go fast, they don't want to substitute a lot. Those guys have to be more than serviceable as blockers. They've got to be guys who can block in there and be effective blocking, or it's going to negate some of the things that they want to do. And here's the other thing too: you need those guys to help your offensive tackles where you're not sure. I mean, go back and look. How many times was Princeton Fant lined up on the left side? Was that because they were a left-handed football team, or was that because they needed help over there because they weren't sure where they were at left tackle? Right side didn't have to worry about anything, right? Because Darnell had it under control. But where's your help going to come from there? I mean, I think the physicality of that position is – I don't doubt their athletic ability and their skill level as pass catchers, Eric. I just wonder, can they block well enough? That's, to me, what they've got to prove the most over the course of the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I would agree. And, I mean, we know you and I talk about how important the tight end position is to this offense. I mean, it's critical. And, we all covered Ethan Davis's recruitment, and we knew that was kind of his role in high school. He was big, athletic, fast, line up out wide in the slot. Didn't have a whole lot of in-line experience. And so I couldn't agree more. Coming off an injury as well, where he's probably not still 100%, but he's good enough to go. It's going to be a big-time question mark in terms of can he get some physicality work inside, in line this spring. You look at some other newcomers for Tennessee. What about Omar Norman-Lott on the defensive line? Kind of going 100 miles an hour. That's a rotational position and everything. Feel like he might have got baptized into learning how to play for Rodney Garner this past week, just like all the other newcomers on the defensive line do. But he's a guy that'll help Tennessee at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a guy that again can plug in, play, and that's what you want him to be. Anytime you bring in a transfer, you want somebody that can come in and give you consistency, someone who's understands it, gets it. Now, again, learning to play for Rodney Garner is different than getting recruited by Rodney Garner.
Oh yeah,
G is very honest with the recruits, probably to a fault at times, but Big Papa Bear comes out on the practice field. And so, just kind of understanding what you're going to get day in, day out on the practice field from G. To me, there's a learning curve there. And so, I think Omar Norman-Lott will be fine. I think ultimately he's a guy that, you just want to settle down, settle in, and kind of find his niche on the defensive line.
Yeah, right, so go ahead, Brent.
Big Papa Bear. I don't know that Rodney is Big Papa Bear. Maybe angry Papa Bear on the practice field. What was all said? I thought it was an interesting thing that he noted that Matthew Butler had an assist in the recruitment of Lott, because Lott's trainer, guy who helped him train, used to be with the Raiders and knew Matthew Butler. So when Lott was trying to learn more about Rodney Garner, he had his trainer contact Matt Butler and talk about what Rodney Garner did for him. And that was a bit of a tie that they had, even though Rodney Garner talked to Lott a year ago when he went in the portal and then ultimately decided to stay at Arizona State.
We spoke on this earlier as we kind of transition here in a moment, but a look ahead to this week. Spring practice scrimmage number 1 is going to come up on Saturday. A couple of padded practices this week. Concern obviously is the offensive line, trying to figure out who's going to replace Darnell Wright, who's going to replace Jerome Carvin. That will not be finished at the end of this week, of course. But Austin, anything else that you're looking for this week from Tennessee here in spring practice week number 2?
Just trying to get through the week healthy. Dante Thornton did not practice Saturday, kind of tweaked the hamstring a little bit, which had bothered him back during winter workouts. Just stay healthy.
Yeah, I think with Thornton, you're very cautious there. I'm not saying you shut him down, but you don't take any chances. If I'm Kurt Smith, the strength coach, I'm conveying, hey, let's get this guy 100% healthy so that he can do everything he needs to do. You don't want this thing to linger for months, and be a problem. So that one there, I think the question is does Cam Seldon, where is he? He was in a red jersey. Does he take that contact? Does he go and scrimmage? Because you want to see what you look like at running back behind Jalen Wright. I think Dylan Sampson looks better, but kind of where are you behind Jalen Wright at this point? And does Cam Seldon get the opportunity to do that this weekend? So I'm with Austin. Stay healthy to get to Saturday. And then, again, where are you from a physicality standpoint at a lot of levels, particularly with those young guys, right? Aaron Carter, Rob, he catches an interception across the middle, and that's beautiful. That's 7-on-7 football. Where is it when you're downhill in the run game in full gear and all that kind of stuff? So that's the question this week, is how do those young guys handle the physicality leading up to the first scrimmage?
I want to know what they look like in the back end coming out of the scrimmage.
Yeah, I think everybody does. Again, so many returners. You add to that group. Yeah. Who's it going to be?
I just think you want to know who makes some plays, like who puts themselves in the mix, right? I mean, is that going to be a real big jigsaw puzzle to figure out, or is that one of those kid puzzles that's got the little thumb tabs on it with about 7 guys? How big of a puzzle are you trying to build out of with that? And that, to me, that's what this spring is about. Do you have 10 guys who are possibilities back there? Do you feel like you've got 7, 8, 12? How many do you come out of spring going, hey, they are in this puzzle, and we try to make it all fit that way? Is it a big puzzle or a little puzzle?
What kind of puzzle do you like?
What kind of puzzle do I like? I like easy puzzles, AP. I like easy ones.
When was the last time any of us did a puzzle?
Oh, see, now here's the thing. I'm going to tell on myself because y'all watch all the Netflix shows. My wife likes puzzles. There's been a few puzzles worked in the wintertime in this house. So,
like, are these 1,000, 5,000? What kind
no, they're 1,000-piece puzzles. You got
God, that makes me want to throw up.
My kids and my in-laws, dude, they put together puzzles all the time. Do I participate? No, I don't. Because I just don't want to.
Rob, you a big puzzle guy?
I am not, EC.
Stunned.
Now, I've never seen an episode of Yellowstone, Breaking Bad, or any of these other shows that y'all watch on Netflix. But by golly, I'm the old man with my grape nuts for breakfast and a cup of coffee making a puzzle. That's me. I'm officially old.
You're gonna be the guy on the Andy Griffith show that sits out there playing checkers, and then y'all go get into that shouting match. He did it.
Big week number 2 coming up for Tennessee spring practice. Practice on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Is that right, Brent?
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Yeah, scrimmage on Saturday and Tuesday, Thursday this week.
And, of course, we'll have all that coverage right over here at Volquest.com. I'm going to talk closing remarks on Tennessee basketball here in just 1 second with Rob Lewis. Obviously, March Madness is going on right now. The Final Four, it's coming up, and it's time for you to, if you haven't already, go ahead and shoot your shot. Score big with the nonstop action over at MyBookie. Whether you're filling out multiple brackets, betting on who you think from the Final Four might go on and win the championship, or simply looking for a player and game props, MyBookie has got you covered. Getting started with MyBookie, it's simple. Visit the website online, make your first deposit, use that promo code Volquest to claim an exclusive deposit bonus. That's promo code Volquest, VOLQUEST, spelling's hard, to claim some extra money on top of your initial deposits. With hundreds of thousands of prizes for March Madness and weekly blackjack tournaments, you can turn your game day into a payday with MyBookie. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. And as always, a big-time shout-out to the presenting sponsor of the Volquest podcast. That is Exterior Home Solutions.
Your roof, it's the most important protection against nature for your home or your business. That's why I trust the experts at Exterior Home Solutions.
Tennessee basketball season has come to an end, falling to FAU on Thursday night in the Sweet 16. FAU goes down and takes care of Kansas State onto the Final Four. But no more Vol hoops. Rob Lewis, you were on scene. Let's get some closing remarks on the Tennessee basketball team. Unfortunate ending, but getting to the second weekend of the tournament, I would have said that would have shocked me going into the tournament, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, if it had happened in a vacuum, if they just made the Sweet 16 and that was it, I think everybody would have viewed this season as a success. But you get there, you face a 9 seed, you're not facing Purdue, you're a 4 versus a 9, and you kind of help Cinderella put on the glass slipper a little bit. So I get that Tennessee fans are upset, but it's it's a conundrum. I mean, how do you view it? This is a school that has 7 25-win seasons. The head coach that everybody is mad at has 4 of those 25-win seasons. I just, at the end of the day, I'll remember this season because of the injuries and because of the missed opportunities. I mean, what if Zakai doesn't, tear his ACL in the second to last game of the season? How does that impact Tennessee in the NCAA? It's an impossible question to answer, but I'll just say, at the end of the day, you can't take the SEC's leader in assist and a first-team all-defensive player off your team, off your starting 5, and not expect there to be a drop-off.
Also, can't get out rebounded by a team that has 1 starter above 6'4". Is that right?
I would agree with that. For sure.
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, we always talk about the offense. It comes and goes, and that's important. But, I mean, you were right on Thursday night. I mean, at one point in time, Tennessee was being out-rebounded by 10 in the second half. I think the overall difference is just 4 or 5, so it wasn't that bad. But still, you got out-rebounded by FAU. Brand, that told a big portion of the story of that game. But, Tennessee basketball, injuries is what you'll remember. Obviously, there's going to be some big-time movements roster-wise heading into next season as well.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think the thing fans have a hard time with, and that's if you don't have a dog in the fight, that's why you love the tournament. But there's nothing in the tournament that says at the end of the year, Rob Lewis, the best team always wins. That's the beauty of the tournament. I mean, if you play a 7-game series, I mean, how many of these Final Four teams are going to win a best of 7 against, a number 1 seed or somebody that's a favorite? I mean, I don't know, but again, that's the beauty of the tournament. Now, the question for Tennessee moving forward is, what does this team look like, Rob? And how do they find scoring? What does this team look like offensively moving forward? And why is there the struggle for this team to seem to find offense? Was that just a one-off on this team this year? Is that the Barnes focuses too much on defense? What's the storyline for this team offensively moving forward?
I mean, nobody knows the answer to that question because you don't know what the team's going to look like next year. I mean, I have no idea what the offense is going to look like, but I don't necessarily think it's a one-off. I mean, I don't know that I would consider. I mean, they were probably points were easier to come by last year, maybe with Kennedy. But I mean, when's the last time you thought this was a great offensive basketball team? I mean, maybe since Grant was here.
So what do you think this roster ends up looking like? I mean, I know the crystal ball. I mean, I'm not asking for specific names on who's
percentages, Rob. We need percentages.
What do you think? And I asked Grant this on the rewind. I mean, how quick, if you're Rick Barnes and the staff, do you have to have an answer from the seniors on what they're going to do so you can move forward?
I think, but before this week is over, I mean, I think quick, and I think Coach Barnes probably already knows what the answer is.
You think they're all gone?
I do, personally. I mean, but the door's open. I mean, if somebody changes their mind, I'm not going to be surprised. But I would. I mean, Rick may not know 100%, but I would say he has an excellent idea. And I would say there's also some guys or a guy that he would say, no, thank you. We're good. Move on. So I think that I think it'll look a lot different. And again, I'll be surprised if any of those seniors come back. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's not impossible, but just right now it would catch me off guard. I mean, I think the biggest storyline for me is Sakai's knee.
Yeah.
How quick? What's that rehab like? How quick does he get back? How quick is he 100%?
Rob, transfer portal, Tennessee, just like all the teams, going to be evaluating, checking that tape, having conversations. Tennessee's got to find, I would imagine, a proven shooter, but also maybe a point guard.
Shooters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, totally. I mean, you look at the shooting on this team is. You're losing Santiago. You're by far your best shooter. You're losing, probably losing Santiago. Let me put it that way. By far your best shooter. Tyreek Key didn't have a great year, but he was, one of your better shooters. I mean, I think guard heavy. I mean, I'm not saying Tennessee wouldn't take a good big, but they're looking hard at guards. AP, we talked about the kid transfer from Western Kentucky. Davian McKnight, that's a guy, the point guard that Tennessee's going to be after. The guard from Temple, name is escaping me right now. That's Tennessee and everybody in the country is going to be chasing that kid. And you're going to hear a lot of names. Brandon Murray, who is at Georgetown right now. Tennessee was in deep with him last year when he left LSU. I think they'll kick the tires on that one, but 3 schools in 3 years. I'm not sure if that's a Rick Barnes type of kid, but you have to look into those situations. He's leaving Georgetown. It was a coaching change. I think there were some NIL promises made to Brandon Murray that may or may not have come to fruition. So I wouldn't necessarily just rule him out because of 3 schools in 3 years, but that's when you look at. But I think Tennessee, and I've said this on the board, I mean, there will literally be dozens of kids that assistant coaches, support staff guys are calling people they know in the business. I mean, it's going to be a wacky 2 or 3 weeks here with the transfer portal.
Rob, I know you wrote about Freddie DeLeon. What is his game for fans, and what can he bring to this offense that maybe they didn't have this year? If that's there, what do you see out of his game and watching him?
I mean, he's a guy. I mean, he's a guy that Tennessee did not have this year. I mean, he can put the ball on the floor and go get you a bucket, and on the other end, he's got defensively like any freshman. He's got miles to go. Strict wise, got to get a lot stronger. But he's a guy that can put it on the floor. He can get into the paint and pull up from 12. He can get to the rim. He's a really clever finisher with both hands. He's a decent, solid 3-point shooter. I would expect that to get a lot better. But and I'm not saying that Tennessee could have plugged him in January. Don't misunderstand that. I mean, he was not ready. But as far as, in his age group, when he's with his peers, he's a guy that can score the basketball legitimately at all 3 levels.
And then finally, last thing, Rob, on hoops, one name we haven't mentioned, but it's expected to go through the process and make a decision. It's got to be Julian Phillips. Been all up and down some mock drafts in terms of being an NBA prospect. He's a guy that Rick Barnes would love to have back, but that's obviously not a guarantee, and we won't know that for a while, I would imagine.
No, you're not going to know that until after he works out for some team. I mean, like you said, Eric, 100% expect him to declare, leave the door open to come back, but go to work out for some teams, maybe go to the combine. And I mean, he would benefit by coming back by just about every kid in his shoes. But how many guys have made decisions to chase the money and go work on their games full time? I mean, he's always wanted to be a professional basketball player. Don't know that he ever wanted to be a college sophomore. So, we'll see what happens. I mean, I 100% expect him to go and look and get some feedback.
That time in terms of basketball, we'll be paying attention to roster management. Which of those COVID seniors, when will they announce that they are leaving and or maybe come back? That's not the expectation, but we'll see. We'll be tracking Julian Phillips' impending decision to declare for the NBA draft. All that and more basketball recruiting, as now we are officially into offseason mode for Rick Barnes' program. Let's go back to recruiting. Let's talk some football recruiting. Some of the highlights, Austin Price. I know there were some big-time commits in town this weekend, but also who did Tennessee move the needle with, who came into town, who has not been committed to the volunteer program?
Well, I thought Tennessee moved the needle with Jake Merklinger. You're going to go back home, talk it over with his family. If he takes the visit to North Carolina, then there's still something, he's still trying to find or see or whatever. If he doesn't take that visit, I have a feeling that Tennessee's, going to be the trendy pick here for Jake Merklinger. It would be a really nice quarterback addition to this class. Outside of that, I thought they did themselves a lot of good with Amari Jefferson. That one's gotten tougher, but he jives with Kelsey Pope, smart kid. Obviously, the baseball side of things, even though we talked about this on the Rock Top Rewind, you don't see it much. But, I mean, if you're thinking about playing two, would you rather play two at Georgia or Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee's football team won the Orange Bowl. Georgia's football team won the national title. Tennessee's baseball team right now is much better than Georgia's. So does that matter? Or has he officially moved into, I'm definitely a football guy, and, we'll let the chips fall where they may. I look around. I love what they did with the offensive lineman. Jesse Perry don't feel like he's close at all. Ronan O'Connell, I could see him coming off the board sometime in late April, early May. Maybe it stretches into the summertime, but I feel like Tennessee did themselves a lot of good with him. Jonathan Eccles, very, very, very good weekend with him. Kind of calmed the uneasiness after having Alex Golish leave and then hiring Alec Ablin. Abe, I thought, had a really strong weekend with both he and Max LeBlanc, tight end from Chattanooga Baylor, who I think is coming off the board for somebody in the next couple of weeks.
Anybody not make it in, numbers-wise? Did they get everybody in that they were kind of expecting, and was there any no-shows that were of significance?
No, it was all good. Everything's good. Another big weekend this weekend. Braylon Russell will be here on Friday, the running back from Arkansas. Boo Carter is supposed to be in here next weekend, and so will the DBs from St. Francis, Farouk and Iffy.
I think the big question too coming out of this past weekend and this coming weekend, Austin, is who do they turn around and get back for the spring game, and who gets back up here to see it again? Does a guy like Ronan O'Connell come back up again within a month's period of time to see things? Do they get Jesse Perry back up here? Can they get Amari Jefferson back up here? I think that's a question mark that you have, to help Tennessee to build off of this weekend. And I know that's what coaches are always asking to do, is for guys to come back up. But which one of those, particularly in-state guys, do they come back up for the spring game? Do they come back up unofficially again before taking an official visit sometime this summer? Because it sounds like a bunch of those in-state guys are going to do June official visits, and a lot of them are going to come off the board by August 1.
Yeah,
right?
That's the new trendy thing. We saw it last year, June officials, and then a bunch of July decisions, which makes everyone –
Number one signing day.
I would say Ronan O'Connell and Max LeBlanc are, to me, the most likely to get back here before the end of spring practice.
Let's go through some other in-state targets real quick. Not necessarily that we're here this weekend, but where's Tennessee? Boo Carter, Edwin Spillman, some other in-state guys that Tennessee really likes.
Edwin Spillman went to Georgia this weekend, going to take the official visit to Ohio State June 9th, Tennessee the 16th. I believe that's the dates. And then, make a decision after that. I still like Tennessee for Evan Spillman. Why would you not? Brother's committed here. He was here this weekend. I just think Evan's kind of doing his due diligence. He's being a kid. He's taking some visits. Boo Carter, feels like that one's getting closer. going to take some visits, this summer. We'll see if he does anything before then. But I think you're looking at the latest a July decision for Boo Carter.
Last thing we want to hit on here on the Volquest podcast here on this Tuesday edition of it, Tennessee baseball. New lease on life a little bit. Brent Hubbs, complete 180, flipped the script. Now, it wasn't perfect, as I wrote the 3-2-1, but Tennessee baseball looks so much better this weekend against a quality opponent in A&M than they did last weekend on the road at Mizzou, and sets the table for what's to come. Number 1, LSU this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was because the barometric pressure was better for the Vols. Maybe that's the qualifier. This program does not seem to have any use for cold weather. They look like a total different team in the warm sunshine. And
they mirror you then.
Yeah, they do mirror me for sure. But, they still did some things that they've got to clean up, right? There's some misplay the ball, position misplay at times. But overall, much better. I thought it was big that Dolander got a rhythm going in that game on Friday night after the tough start. Chase Burns got hot, played really well, and pitched really well up into that 6th. And for me, Eric, I think the other takeaway, and maybe I'm in the minority here, their bullpen was really solid, was really good. And they threw a ton of arms. It was like everybody gets to throw on Sunday, but everybody that did throw seemed to throw the ball pretty well all weekend long out of the bullpen, which is a positive.
I'm sitting here grinning ear to ear because, a 3-hour and 30-minute game on Sunday, game 3, when you're leading by, 4 or 5 runs at the time, and you call on 3 different guys to get 3 outs in a 1-2-3 inning in the 8th. That's a whole lot of fun. But there's a method to the madness. They need to get those guys working. They might have to use them, this weekend and what's going to be a big-time series against LSU, which has got an incredible offense. So you might need a whole lot of arms. You need to get those guys some work in. So I get it. Something else you mentioned for Tennessee over the weekend, they came from behind all weekend long. They proved that they can win games that way, and also they walked it off on Saturday. Yeah, it was a sac fly, yada yada. It's still a walk off. I thought that was big for Tennessee in that regards. And another big takeaway for me that you saw in the 3-2-1 on Monday, man, TV, he's trying everything. I can't fault this staff for trying to find a way to make it work. Is it ideal to have Jared Dickey as a catcher? No, it's not. It's not. But they're trying to piece everything together and make some things work. And this weekend it worked. This upcoming weekend, maybe it won't. But I think that they're still trying to figure it out. Bats came back. They came alive. Good to see Blake Burke swing the bat pretty well. Good to see the bottom of the order. Zane Denton had a career day as he was moved down to the 9 hole. But also Christian Scott had a good weekend overall. Hunter Inslee had a good weekend. You mentioned the starting pitching. It's a good rebound, but again, still some questions, and obviously a big time weekend coming up against Dylan Cruz, Tommy Tanks, and Paul Skeens and LSU.
Yeah, it feels like, Eric, that this baseball team, that they're just not going to be settled all year long. I mean, it's going to be a variety of different lineups, and it's going to be about matchups, and
yeah.
I don't say piecing it together, but it's it's not. I don't think it's going to be uncommon for a guy to bat 5th on Friday and 9th on Saturday. I don't know that that's just going to be the craziest thing ever, because I think they're going to shuffle all around until I don't know that they'll ever find kind of their set group and set lineup like you saw them have a year ago.
Well, for the first time, I mean, going into this weekend, and granted you came off a horrendous weekend at Mizzou, I get it, but 1 through 6 was pretty set in stone. I mean, that's pretty much what you knew you were going to get. It was the bottom of the order they were trying to figure out. But Griffin Merritt's slumping a little bit. Zane Denton was slumping a little bit. Just trying to figure it out. He mixed some things up. Hunter Inslee is now probably an everyday player, especially with the injury to Kafaris Tears, which is so unfortunate. We'll monitor Tears. We'll see what's going on this week. Man, it's a shame because waited so long for his opportunity. He was getting everyday reps. He was just killing the baseball, hitting over 425 ABs, 6 extra base hits, and 11 hits overall. Hamstrings are delicate, though. You got to take your time with those. But anyway, I think we know Hunter Inslee is going to be an everyday player now. But also with those matchups, as you mentioned, when there's a lefty on the mound, you're going to see Cal Stark in there somewhere. You're going to see Hunter Inslee in there. When there is a righty on the mound, maybe it's more Dylan Dreiling. Maybe it's more some of those other guys. So a lot of moving pieces, but Tony Vitello, Frank Anderson, Josh Elander, all those guys trying to make it work, trying to push those right buttons. This past weekend, and Tony Vitello always says this, you're the hero whenever the buttons you push work. You're the GOAT whenever they don't work. So they worked this past weekend, and we'll see what happens this weekend for LSU. While The Porch with Luke Lipsy is coming out, it'll be a game day release at this time on Thursday, but plenty to discuss from this past weekend. Of course, looking ahead to LSU. All right, that's going to do it here for this edition of the Volquest podcast. Awesome coverage, and we can't thank them enough from Exterior Home Solutions for making all of this possible. Free estimate. Go ahead and give them a call today at 865-524-5888, 865-524-5888. A free estimate, give Exterior Home Solutions a call or go to their website, exteriorhomesolutions.com. For Austin Price, Brent Hubbs, Rob Lewis, I am Eric Kane. Go ahead and subscribe to the Volquest YouTube channel and check out our work and join our family over the General's Quarters and at volquest.com.